Hi, everyone. Welcome to Figuring Out Fabric, where I ask dumb questions and you get smart answers. And I've got Shabnam here to help us out. We're going to talk about being overwhelmed, about certifications, all that kind of stuff. Before the show, I was talking about how I was envious of her because I think she picked up a lot of this stuff faster than I did, whereas I kind of just banged my head against it and didn't know what I was doing. And then, like a year later, started to get it. Um, let's see. Oh, I forgot to. Did you put anything about Shauna, why don't you introduce yourself or, like, what you do? And I know you're a
Yeah,
Microsoft
sure.
MVP and all that.
Well, yeah. Thank you so much for having me here, Eugene. It's always great to chat
Yeah.
with you. I'm a Microsoft Data Platform MVP. I'm an independent consultant. I've been doing IT work mostly in the data platform with Microsoft tools for about 20 years now. And that's about it for me. I'm also oh, there's one more thing. So I'm also writing a book with Nicola
Oh, that's
Illick.
right.
Yes,
Is
that I'm super proud of. It's called Analytics Engineering with Fabric and Power BI. And it's with O'Reilly. It's in early release right now. So if you log into O'Reilly, you can actually read the chapters as we're writing it. So not necessarily advertising for O'Reilly here. I
No,
was
no, 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 we'll
really
put a link in the show
surprised that
notes.
they do that. It's really cool because you can, for any of their books that are in early release, you can actually read it as the authors write,
Right.
and you kind of see the unedited author's thoughts there, and it's for all of their books. It's quite neat.
I do have to this is probably a tangent, but the whole show can be a tangent sometimes. I have to ask, how much do you feel analytics engineering is, like, a real thing versus something we've been doing for the past, like you said, 20 years, and they just gave it a different name because now we're dealing with data lakes and all that kinda stuff?
Yeah, so Nicola explains analytics engineer in the book in one of the first two chapters, because each one of us works on certain chapters, and
Yeah.
he had the first couple of chapters, and he explains the analytics engineer really well. So I myself, when I was reading, I was thinking, well, is it something that we've always been doing and just got a name, or is it a new thing? I think it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
So I think it's because now there's a lot of what we call engineering tasks that now you can do in the analytics world. So it's not software engineering, right? It's
Right.
not, think of it this way, it's not software engineering, it's not civil engineering, it's not, materials engineering, all those, like, chemical engineering, it's not those, kinda engineering. I think the point is that analytics also is a field for engineering, so that's what
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
title comes from.
No, it's just interesting because I know, like, a year or 2 ago, I saw people arguing about, like, is this a thing? Are there actual job descriptions around this? We'll
Yeah.
also put in the show notes, but the DBT folks have an analytics engineering podcast that I've actually found to be helpful. But, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so I'm on my first paid Fabric project, and it's forcing me to actually become a data engineer. Like, I finally understand it on some level, and I can tell you before that, it felt a little bit like pretentious is maybe the term, I don't know, where, like, someone put on a hat and they're like, I'm a data engineer." It's like, "Are you? Or are you
So
just, like, making pipelines?" And so, I think without, like, having to do it, it's easy for me to, jump to conclusions about, like, the analytics engineering, about, like, what
yeah, so I highly recommend I highly recommend you read chapter 1 of the book where
Alright.
Nicola goes into depth about talking he talks in depth about analytics engineering, where it came from, a lot of the some of the history that you mentioned. I so analytics engineering from our point of view is not the same as a data engineer.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah. So,
That's the first book that he did with Ben Weissman or whatever with Fabric or
yeah.
no, that's all
Um,
good. I should probably get us back on topic though.
yes.
So we were talking about how, like, I tried learning about Fabric whenever it was in, like, preview,
Mhm.
and I got very overwhelmed because it felt like jumping into a soap opera like season 6. Like, suddenly I have to know what parquet is and what delta is and what a lake house is and all this stuff. And you took to it a little bit better because you had some experience with Synapse. So what was your experience kind of initially learning and trying to understand Fabric?
Mhm. So, I think, so first of all, appearances, right? So I just want to be transparent about this. So, like from the outside, when you look at other people, you think that they're maybe taking things a lot easier than you, whereas internally they may be
Yeah.
a mess and a turmoil and like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what's going on. But outside of that, I think for me, it was a really good experience because, as you know, I'm a Power BI fan and analysis services fan, just like yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. So for me, I was working with Synapse Analytics at the time at a client and some of the other Azure tools, and I was running into certain limitations and frustrations with those tools, and specifically around provisioning challenges at the client. So these weren't necessarily
Hmm,
technical. There were a lot of provisioning challenges where some team had to authorize it, another team had to go put in a ticket, another team had to go
got
create
it.
it to provision an Azure platform tool. So s- platform as a service tool, right? Like
Yeah,
Azure Databricks or Synapse Analytics. You had to go through all of that bureaucracy and then permissions and security. It was a ton of work. And then finally you would get it. And then you would run into some technical limitations at times.
right.
So then I hear this. I hear, okay, so you know you've had Power BI, software as a service, and in the same workspace, you can just go and click and you can create a warehouse or a lake house. I'm
Yeah,
like, "What? Like, are you serious?" Like, this was, like, the best thing. I literally fell off my chair that day. So, that was amazing news. So, I guess I went into it with a very on a very positive vibe from the beginning. I was super
yeah.
happy about it because I felt like all these other Azure capabilities that were challenging to get before, they all came to me in the same playground that I'm used to with Power BI. So for
That's
me,
interesting.
that
Oh, good.
that helped me. That helped me initially. But then, of course, I wasn't necessarily an expert in PySpark or Spark, or there are so many different things to Fabric. So then over time, it can get overwhelming because there's so many things in there. And, we used to know Power BI, maybe SSIS and
Yeah.
SSRS, a couple of things in the old days, but now all of a sudden, so many tools, all of them accessible, and you are supposed to be an expert in all of them, or at least some people think.
Yeah, it's interesting that you saw the value early on because I'm seeing some of that with this current project where if we can do it within this Fabric workspace, it's easy. But at the moment we need to like requisition something from IT, it's going to be 3 meetings and all this conversation.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think for me, a lot of my customers tend to be very small. And so like why would I need parquet and all this kind of stuff? And it took me a while to start to see some of the vision of it, but it makes sense that for you, like, Power BI has always been easy to get started, sometimes to its detriment. Like, sometimes enabled shadow BI or, just kind of rogue self-service kind of stuff, but I do think that there is a sweet spot that doesn't involve having to, like, get permission to set up something in Azure every time you wanna do something.
Yes.
Yeah. Um I I also agree about, like, it looks like no one else is struggling kinda thing. I think social media, especially LinkedIn, is really bad about this, where
LinkedIn
just
is
in cur
very bad. So I always joke about this because when you see my posts, it's always about, I post about some cool feature that I just learned about or,
Yeah.
some conference or some success. you don't see me posting about me hitting my head against the wall because something's gone wrong, you know? So so all social media can be very difficult at times to read through and
There's a lot of toxic positivity on
yeah,
LinkedIn. Like,
there's a lot of
the
positivity there.
the algorithm is all either, like, toxic positivity or hot takes designed to get engagement. There's no like, if you wanna see struggle, just look through my post history on the Fabric, subreddit, because it's me just bumping into those things. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Normally, like, I don't know, how many how many subscribers do you have on YouTube? Because I do tend to look at people like, "Oh, man, these people, like, are producing content all the time and doing all this stuff." I'm very jealous sometimes, even though I shouldn't be. But yeah. Um, so, uh, so how well, I guess this is probably a bad question. I was gonna say, so how long did it take you to feel like you had your feet under you with Fabric? Or it may be a bad question because maybe you still don't feel like you've got your feet under you with Fabric and all
Um,
that.
so so for me, because my background was Power BI,
Yeah.
okay, and Power BI is part of Fabric, so that didn't go away. It just got some extra cool stuff. So it got
Yeah.
direct links, so things got better for Power BI. I got some extra stuff. It didn't really go away. So for me, that was Power BI was my grounding.
Yeah.
So it kept me grounded, and then from there, I would venture out, check out this and that and that and that. So for me overall, it's been a positive experience and my strategy is in general, I find a way that works and I ignore the ways that don't work.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So like I know there can be bugs, there can be feature disparities. Like you can if you use this tool, you can connect to this data source, but if you use this other tool, it doesn't connect to this data source yet. So I just find a way that works and I move on.
I think that's the right advice for people getting started with Fabric is start out optimizing for developer time, and then later, if you want to figure out CUs or
Yes.
something like that, you can. And
True, true.
it was hard to give it advice like that for a while because data flows were really, really poor performing. But thankfully at the FabCon Vienna, they announced that they've
They
made
did. Yeah, that's
that's
actually
exciting.
that yeah, that was actually one of the announcements that I was excited about because you don't have to do anything, and then all of a sudden they start running way faster and cheaper.
Yeah.
So it's overall really positive gain. I haven't tested it myself yet, but
Yeah.
I was gonna run. I need to go run some of my old flows and then see if I can compare the runtime without touching anything. But the only caveat is that I scale my capacity up and down, so I have to remember which exact capacity I was on, which SKU I was on before.
Oh, sure.
Because I don't know if that shouldn't have a role in it though, right? Because I
I
think
wouldn't think so. Yeah.
yeah, especially because just me, there wouldn't be any throttling. But yeah, that's still on my to-do list.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think definitely, like, get something working and expand out is, I
Yeah.
think, the right strategy a lot of times, even if good.
So Fabric can be overwhelming for people who get started with just because there's so many tools in there that you can use, okay? But I always say just y- y- just use the parts that you need. Like you don't have to use every single feature.
Yeah,
Just because it's there, it doesn't mean you have to use it to get things done. So it's fine. Like we don't use all the features in our cell phones. We don't even worry about it. There's
yeah.
so many things it can do that we just don't have time to explore.
Yeah, something I would love to see from more of our peers, because I don't think Microsoft's ever gonna give it to us, is some opinionated pieces of, like, "Okay, here's an entry point, here's a path," and that sort of thing. The closest
Mhm.
we've got from Microsoft, I think, has been, like, those they're not case studies, but they'll have a big table of, like, "Here's 3 different ways to move data. Here's 3 different ways to store data." and here's
Yeah.
all this kind of stuff. But like I wrote a blog post about like guidance for small businesses about, okay, if you're at the buffet, you know, maybe avoid the sushi, get like the mac and cheese, start
Wait, I
easy,
didn't
start
know
small.
that, but okay.
No, what? No, I sorry, I'm using that as an analogy for like as an American, like here's some food you may be more used to versus like maybe not. I love sushi to be clear, but
Okay.
like, maybe don't mess with like, KQL out the gate. Just get a lake house, get some Gen 2 data
Yeah.
flows, basic kind of stuff. Um,
Yeah. So I it I think it can be hard though because it all depends on what you already know. Like
yes.
what you're currently using in your project and
Yeah.
what you want to learn, and who your employees are, what their skills are, because somebody's going to support things. So it's a bit complex.
Yeah.
I was doing some research for one of my presentations about learning AI. Like, how do we learn AI?
That's also
And
a big overwhelming topic. Yeah.
yes, so I did some research about human learning,
Oh,
and it turns out that my hunch was right. So, um, if when you're trying to learn something new, if you tie it to something you already know, then you
yeah.
will you will absorb the new topic better, faster, more efficiently.
So there's a book, I'll get in the show notes, but I think it's called Design for How People Learn by Julie Dirksen, I wanna say. I may get the details wrong, but we'll make sure it's in the show notes. And it's, about instructional design, and it's, like, one of my 2 favorite books on instructional design, and one of the ways she describes it is she describes our memory as a closet, and a lot of what designers have to do, instructional designers, is to figure out what labels go on the boxes for stuff. Right? So, if you have a scarf, does it go in the winter clothes box? Does it go in the like neck stuff clothing box? Does it go in like the red clothing box or whatever? And so a lot as people who teach or write or blog or do videos, you're absolutely right. A lot of it is creating that scaffolding for the learner to then kind of attach their learning to. So that makes perfect sense.
Yes. So there have been several studies where they show if you're if you're learning something, if it's you can tie to something else that you already know, you will grasp it faster.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
so that's why I said it depends. When you were asking for recommendations on how to get started, unfortunately it's one of those it depends situations.
Right, although it does make me think we need to get, like, Kurt Bueller's graphic artist to make, like, a choose your own adventure map, like, if you're coming from Synapse, here's the path to take. If you're coming from Power BI, here's the path to take. If you're coming from Databricks, here's the path to take, and it all leads you up the mountain of Mount Fabric or something, but, that would be cool at least, but no, that is a fair point that the skill sets are varied, and maybe it's unfair of me to complain about this. It's like if I was complaining that there's not, like, a good guide to, like, Lowe's or Home Depot, 'cause I'm so used to IKEA or whatever where, you just have what you need and there's instructions and it's all self-contained, but Fabric is a lot more like Lowe's or Home Depot or something where they sell you the lumber, they sell you the nails, and you still have to build the stuff. So, yeah, I think that's fair. Um, did you wanna talk a little bit, we've got another 5 or 10 minutes. Do you wanna talk a little bit about certifications? Because you were mentioning how I think some people can be scared about that, but that can be a good way to learn.
Yeah, so the certifications DP 600 or 700, they're a great way to get started and have a guided path so that you don't get overwhelmed by Microsoft Learn, because Microsoft Learn is like an ocean, right? You go there,
Yeah.
you start clicking around, you may get lost. So instead, when you're starting, you can go through the study guides on Microsoft aren't for DP 600, 700, so I always start with that. But then at some point you have to go and schedule that exam to take it, to take the certification. And even though it's open book, so you get Microsoft Learn on your side, it still
Yeah.
takes time to look up stuff and all that. And then there can be some stress involved with this. And nobody, I don't think anybody likes taking tests. Okay.
No.
Um, so it can be stressful, right? Because you're being evaluated. Uh, and sometimes the questions don't make sense. And, you're going through them like, well, all the answers are wrong. None of these can be
Yeah.
correct. Or like you can swear that, like, yeah, these two both can apply. So there's things like that going on. But, anyways, there's a lot of people who don't schedule the exam because they are scared of, not scared, but they're stressed out about failing.
Yeah.
Because if I schedule an exam, that's some people's biggest fear about an exam is that what if they fail? So what if I schedule this exam and I get like a score of 650 where the passing score is 700? And especially if I'm someone who already works in this field and all my coworkers think I know my stuff, and what if I go take the exam and I fail? Like that's not gonna look good, it's a failure, things like that. So,
Yeah.
um, just know that that's very common. That's a very common feeling to have, um, and it shouldn't stop you. You just have to deal with the fear and do it.
Well, something I recommend, it looks like it's still valid. If you have the extra like 50 or $100, I recommend the Microsoft Exam Replay
Yes.
bundle, because then like I find that helps with my stress a lot because I can just be like, I'm going in, I'm gonna YOLO. The first one, I assume I'm gonna fail, and that's okay because then I'm gonna
Yeah.
know my gaps and I'm gonna study harder and all that stuff. So I
Yeah.
found that to help.
Absolutely. Or, there are also the other thing that, um, if you can catch one of those heavily discounted vouchers at the conferences or user groups or sometimes the big
Yeah.
event anniversaries, those help too. Or maybe even a free one.
Yeah.
That would be
They've been
awesome
they've been
for
pushing
your
it
test
hard.
for your test attempt.
Yeah, uh, for as long as I've been in this field, which is slightly less than you, I think I started 15 years ago. Um, I have never seen Microsoft push a set of certifications as aggressively as the Fabric stuff. Like you said, there's regularly they're doing discounts or offers, or like if you go through these learn modules, you can get a half off or something like that. So I agree, take advantage of that. And even if you never take the exam, certs can be a nice way to just someone's already made learning objectives for you, and you can get a lay of the land and all that kind of stuff.
Mm. Yes, so it's really good for filling in the gaps. So, for example, I would have not learned KQL if it weren't for the
Yeah.
exam. I would not have learned about real-time intelligence and KQL if it weren't for the exam. And then because I was preparing for the exam, I learned about it, and then I actually ended up using it at work, and it was awesome.
I was
So
gonna ask if you had actually gotten a chance to use it at all as a result. Um,
I
I
use KQL, the language,
yeah,
in a platform as a service tool
nice.
called Log Analytics.
Yep, yep.
Yeah,
I
and
see I see Chris Webb write about that occasionally for, like, Power BI. The
it's super powerful. I was able to get some help from an AI tool to generate some regex
Yeah,
expressions for me, and then I was able to sift through um, millions of records of SQL queries and fetch out table names that were used in the query. So parse out all the table names that are used in the from clause
yeah.
and generate lists. But it just goes so fast, and I don't think I would have been able to do that with SQL.
No, that's awesome. Um, any before we do our wrap up questions, any last tips for anyone dealing with overwhelm? I know before the show you were talking about how like you look at like the post and there's like 20 new features and it's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, at at some point, look, nobody has time to learn everything.
Yeah.
And you have to accept that Fabric is not just one tool. It's a collection of tools, and it's going to take a team to do projects with Fabric, bigger projects.
Yeah.
So I think you just have to accept it that it's okay not to know every single thing. And then just learn. Again, I would go back to start with like a grounding piece, whatever you're comfortable with, and then start building on from there slowly, slowly. Because otherwise, yes, the newsletters that come out with like constant features that are being added, it's definitely overwhelming because I don't get the mental capacity to add them on like every week.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, even before Fabric, even Power BI was an ocean, and I'd kind of accepted like, okay, this stuff with like the APIs, I'm just not gonna know very well, or the CI/CD, I'm not gonna know very well. And so, yeah, we've gone from one product to 15 or whatever. Um, so let's go ahead and wrap up with some questions. So, I don't know if you saw this in the invite or not, but the first question is, what's your favorite Microsoft Fabric feature?
Yeah. Luckily, I did read the
Oh,
invite
good.
last minute.
I just don't want to catch you off guard or this sort of thing. Yeah,
No, that's good. Okay. So I'm gonna stay away from Power BI because that's my
sure.
original,
It's easy. Yeah.
Yes. I have a new favorite. It's called the copy job, not the copy activity in a pipeline. It's the
Oh,
copy
yes.
job. So at first when it came out, I was like, "Oh no, like another thing that does the same thing, and like why would I do that? I already know how to create a pipeline." But then I started using it, and then I realized, "Oh my god, it's so much easier, so much faster to get this thing started instead of creating a pipeline when I just needed to move data from one place to another." You know?
Yeah.
And you can schedule it. I was like, anyways, it is my new favorite, the copy job,
Oh, it's great.
because
It's good.
because I like simple stuff. I like simple, powerful stuff.
Well, and if you're feeling overwhelmed, it's awesome because when before I knew anything about pipelines, I was like, there's too many choices, too many options. So yeah, I love the
Yeah.
copy job as well. That's awesome. So what is your least favorite Fabric feature?
Oh, no.
Or what something I know, I don't know if we're allowed to have these no. Um, or something that's been like there was maybe a pain point or, like if they need to like sand this off a little bit.
Um, so because I think I shared this with you earlier, because I have a strategy of I find what works and I stick to it and I try to forget about the rest.
Yeah,
Okay.
you've forgotten all of your least favorite.
Yeah. So the things that didn't work, I don't dwell on them.
Sure.
But I can say that sometimes the data sources, for example, or data destinations that you can read or write to, is different depending on which data integration tool you use, whether using the copy job or data flows or
It's
whatever else.
inconsistent. Yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes some of them support some, but not the others. So that can be confusing at times. But over the past, I want to say year, they've closed that gap more and more. Um,
No, that's awesome. And I agree because like we're out here trying to tell people just use what works for you, use what you're most comfortable with, use what's closest to your experience. And
yeah,
so then people might be chugging along with Gen 2 data flows and then they find out it doesn't support SFTP and so they have to use a different tool or whatever.
yeah,
And so I think I think that can be a blocker right now is okay, well, if there's not some of this connector parity, it causes some problems. So no, that makes sense. The last pair of questions is where can people find you, and is there anything you want to promote? I we already talked about your book, so I'm sure that's probably,
yeah.
but yeah,
We went out of order. Yeah. So
I'm
I'm
sorry.
on. Yeah.
I get
I'm on LinkedIn, so obviously LinkedIn is the best way to connect with me. I'm I'm also on Twitter. I'm also on Blue Sky, so you can connect with me on any of those. And then I also blog. I haven't been super active recently, but I also blog. I also have a YouTube channel that I post to. Um, so those are all different ways that you can connect with me. By
good.
the way, I just posted a Lego build out of the 10-year anniversary Lego set for Power BI.
Oh, nice.
I did a slow motion
Oh,
video.
I think when was that you with, like, your MVP disc and you, like, had the little Lego
That
people could
was yeah, that was my MVP disc, but this was the I did this yesterday. This is with the 10-year anniversary Power BI
got
10-year
it.
anniversary Lego set that I got at FabCon. So
Oh, nice.
just had some fun with that. So
Very cool. Alright, well, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been a great episode. I appreciate it.
thank you. Thank